I'm going to tell you the part nobody wants to admit out loud. A 3-year-old dialed the wrong number and I picked up. I'm a man with a skyline view and a private line, the kind of life where emergencies are supposed to schedule themselves. But that morning I heard a child whisper. My mommy won't wake up, and everything I thought I knew about being a good man snapped in half. If it were you, what would you have done? It smelled like rain and old coffee through a window that never really shut. You could hear the fridge hum louder than the street. The kind of apartment where pride keeps it clean when money can't keep it full. I could see it without seeing it yet. Sticky spot by the fridge, cracked linoleum, a blanket with faded clouds on the couch. The little girl's voice stayed small but brave. We live on Park Street. There's a mean dog. The lady next door makes fish that smells funny, and right then I knew I wasn't letting some dispatcher carry this alone. I told her, sweetheart, keep talking to me, as I shoved papers off my desk, grabbed my keys, and ran for the elevator like the ground floor was on fire. Pattern interrupt. My phone almost slipped out of my hand. I don't drop things. Money makes your grip lazy. Not that day. I asked questions like a man trying to build a map out of crumbs. How many stairs? What color the door? Can you see a mailbox? Is your brother breathing okay? Her name was Kira, her brother was Caden, and her mother was on the floor, not moving, not answering, not anything a 3-year-old should have to describe. My driver asked where to. I said nowhere and took the wheel myself, because sometimes control isn't a vice, it's a responsibility. Red lights turned into suggestions I ignored with apologies I'd pay for later. Do you think that's fair, by the way, that tickets arrive faster than ambulances in some neighborhoods, while people count breaths in others? The building was brown, in the way cookie crumbs are brown stacked and tired, a mailbox cluster that had given up learning names. I took the stairs 2 at a time, phone against my ear, Kira trying to reach the top chain, with the kind of effort that breaks your heart and your patience with systems at the same time. Step back, I told her, gentle but firm. The lock was new, the door was old, bad marriage. It gave on the second shoulder. The wood split like the city cleared its throat. Inside was small, sure, but cared for. Toys in a basket, dishes clean, and drying a picture stuck to the fridge with a chipped magnet that said, "Be kind." Amara, I would learn her name later and never unlearn it, was on the floor, skin gray around the edges, breathing shallow, pulse thin like radio static. Caden's thumb slid out of his mouth when he saw me, his eyes asking if I was a test or a rescue. I'm here, I said, and I don't usually say things unless I can make them true. I called emergency and put the phone on speaker, my voice the kind you use when you're trying to sound like the weather in a thunderstorm. Is she breathing? Yes, shallow. Any injuries? None I can see. Children present. 2. Names, Kira and Caden. I said their names out loud like I was pinning them to the moment so it couldn't blow them away. The dispatcher told me to keep her warm, so I asked Kira to fetch the blanket with clouds on it, and she dragged it across the floor with hands that shook and a jaw that didn't. That kind of courage at 3 years old should be illegal and mandatory at the same time. I opened the fridge. Half a carton of milk, a jar of peanut butter scraped at the corners, lettuce turning a color nobody asks for. The freezer was ice pretending to be food. When did you last eat? I asked like a coward, hoping the answer would be okay if I asked kindly enough. Yesterday, Caden said, whispering like it might hurt less at a lower volume half sandwich. Hunger has a smell, I learned that in 1 second. It smells like metal and apology. Pattern interrupt. A banana. There was a corner market across the street with bulletproof glass and a bell that rang like it owed rent. I didn't want to leave. I mean that I didn't want to leave. But 2 toddlers with hollow sugar and a mother on the floor can't be fed by intentions. I picked Caden up, took Kira's hand, promised I'd be back before the ambulance took a breath, and sprinted, grabbing bananas, milk, bread crackers, ramen with cartoons on the cup that taste like a warm hug at midnight. Back upstairs, I sliced banana with a plastic knife, counting each bite and each breath like they were the same currency. The siren got louder. Kira's eyes followed my hands like hope had 10 fingers. The paramedics came in like kindness in uniforms, checking vitals, asking questions, telling me the words nobody likes to put together: dehydration, malnutrition, exhaustion, and the sentence nobody wants attached to them: no permanent damage if she rests and eats. The social services worker showed up with a clipboard that looked heavier than it was. "Are you family?" she asked, pen ready over a box that wanted a simple answer. "I'm with them," I said, which wasn't what she asked, but was the only truth available. "We may need to place the children for a short time while their mother recovers," she said, and Kira's hand found mine like a second pulse. No Amara would have said if she'd been awake, so I said it with my shoulders. "I will follow the ambulance and stay with the children until their mother wakes. We will figure out the rest." Do you think that's fair? That the punishment for starving yourself to feed your kids is losing them while you heal? Hospitals make time stretch like gum. We sat in a waiting room that smelled like hand sanitizer and vending machine soup, building a tower of blocks that kept falling at 6 instead of 7. Daddy Nathan Kira said at one point, casual as a weather report, like she'd found a name for the way I stayed. I didn't correct her. I kept the tower steady while she placed the last block. Dr. Martinez came with the chart and the calm of a man who sees crisis at breakfast and hope by lunch. "She'll recover," he said, "if she rests, if she eats, if she isn't asked to carry the world by herself this month." He asked me my relation again. I said friend, which sounded small, but sometimes small is what fits through the door. Mrs. Rodriguez from Social Services explained the protocols again, her tone professional, not cruel, just tired of the number of times she's had to say them out loud. I asked if there was a way to keep the children with their mother upon discharge if someone, meaning me, could guarantee groceries, childcare, rent, the unexciting parts of survival. Protocols don't love guarantees. They love forms. I signed everything a person like me can sign when the paper wants what the paper wants. Amara woke up around noon, eyes focusing like she'd been underwater, and finally found the surface. When the nurse wheeled Kira and Caden in the room, turned into a prayer you don't have to say out loud. "You must be Nathan," she said, voice rusted at the edges but not broken. "Thank you." I didn't do the billionaire speech. I didn't say this is nothing, because nothing has never bought milk. I said, "You kept your home clean on half a sandwich. That's more than most men I know can keep a promise." And she laughed a little, and then cried a little, and then did both at once. You know what I mean. Here's where life should get easy. Check car smile. The movie version. Except there was a problem nobody saw coming, and it changed everything. Twist. 2 floors down, Mrs. Rodriguez put a thin file on a thick table. "We received an anonymous complaint a month ago," she said. Anonymous always smells like perfume. Noise, crying, possible neglect. She slid a photo across. Amara's door with a yellow notice from the landlord about new safety policies. In the fine print, a line so slim you could bruise your eyes trying to see it. Outbound calls from old wall phones restricted to a list landlord, super building security, a 5-digit code for emergencies. No 911. Not unless you paid an extra deposit for expanded service. The building had put a price tag on dialing help. My throat made a sound I hadn't heard since my parents' accident. "So how did Kira reach me?" I asked. "Because the universe has jokes even on bad days." The social worker shrugged. Old buildings, old switchboards. Misroutes happen. That wrong number had bounced off a dead non-profit hotline my office absorbed years ago and forgot to shut down. It forwarded straight to my private line. Wrong number, right miracle. Tell me you're not furious. I called my attorney. Not to beat our chests, to protect this family and every family behind them. Find the statute, I said, the one about interfering with emergency services. I want the code section on paper by sundown. Then I went back upstairs and did the thing and money can't buy you if you don't already have it. I asked for trust. You are not going back to 3 jobs, I told Amara, and before pride could rim her voice with no, I laid out an offer, like a table you can sit at. Administrative coordinator at my company, real salary benefits, childcare stipend hours that end when people should go home. It's not charity, I said. It's a job you're already qualified for. I've watched you manage a more complicated operation than any department I run. Why me, she asked, chin up in that way people use to keep their dignity standing up. Because you move when there's no gas in the tank, I said. Because your kids looked at me and saw a father before I saw him in the mirror. Because if we're lucky, this is the beginning of a real family. But the job stands, even if that part doesn't. We took the twins not to the old apartment with the broken lock and the loud fridge, but to a small townhouse 10 minutes from my office with sunlight that tried hard and a backyard big enough for a plastic slide. We ate takeout on the floor because forks are optional on your first night of safety. I asked if I could use the guest room. Amara said yes for now, and the way she said it let air in. The next morning we made pancakes that looked like animals if you tilted your head. Caden got syrup on his socks. Kira asked if I had a job. I do, I said, and your mom is going to run it so much better I might have to retire. Routine is where love learns to walk. That's the part movies speed past, but it's the only part that sticks. We did bedtime stories with voices, school forms with old pens, grocery lists, with coupons even when my card could have laughed at them. At the office, Amara took my calendar like a challenge and returned it like a cathedral. Meetings that used to drift, sharpened emails answered before they turned into fires. She had ideas about community programs we could support that weren't performative, things that move a needle instead of a headline. Jennifer, my assistant, told me I'd never been this punctual or this sane. I told her that's what happens when your priorities grow legs and call you daddy. Stick around because what happened next will blow your mind. I proposed in the kitchen because diamonds look better next to pancake batter. The ring was simple and right. I need you to be sure, she said. And I was, not performative, sure, the kind that doesn't wobble at 2 a.m. Whatever happens between us, I added, my commitment to Kira and Caden is permanent. If adoption makes sense when they're ready, I'll be honored. And if not, I'm still here for Wednesdays. Dentist's school plays the boring parts that make a family real. We got married in a garden with room for short legs to run. Our vows were promises you can use. Respect, listening, choosing us when work is loud, being wrong, and saying it out loud, never weaponizing money, building a life that makes sense to the kids first and everyone else later. The twins cheered louder than any adult, and that's how you know a wedding is honest. And then, the real twist, the one I'd been hiding like a kid with a surprise under a towel. I'd been slipping out early, not for business, for a building. A place with glass that let light in, and rooms that let dignity breathe. On our 6-month anniversary, I drove Amara to the edge of a neighborhood that doesn't get ribbon cuttings and parked in front of a sign that said, The Amara Johnson Pierce Center for Families. Childcare, on a sliding scale job, training with real placements. A small clinic for basics. A counseling wing staffed with people who have lived the stories they guide others through a legal help desk, where a tenant can say they blocked my phone from dialing 911 and watch the law pick a side. Who's going to run it? She asked, tears not gentle and not weak. You, I said, if you want it. Executive director, full autonomy, a board that listens. This isn't a monument. It's a machine that makes families safer. A year later, I watched her on a small stage tell a room full of neighbors and a few nervous officials what it means to pull together. 200 families got childcare that let them clock in without fear, 89 finished training, and landed jobs that pay a wage that respects mornings. A dozen started small businesses that sell things people actually need, and a number you can't count found out they weren't alone. She said, "We're not here to rescue anyone. We're here to remove obstacles so people can rescue themselves," and even the mayor stopped checking his phone for a minute. Meanwhile, that landlord policy about 911 calls, we didn't just find someone and take a victory lap. We took it to the city, changed the code, made emergency access a right, not an upgrade. Mrs. Chin from next door showed up in her Sunday hat. The corner store owner closed early to sit in the back row. When the vote passed, the room made a sound that felt like a door unlocking in your chest. Here's where I make some people mad, and I hope you tell me if I'm wrong. Money helped. It did. My name on a letter made something move that would have ignored a tenant's cry. That's ugly to say, but uglier to deny. Do you think that's fair? That a child with a banana breath should wait longer for safety than a man with a business card? I used the speed I had to break open a path, but the goal isn't to make more men like me. It's to make sure nobody needs me to be the shortcut. If it were you, would you want a savior showing up for a day? Or a system that shows up every day? We're not perfect. We argue about small things like screen time and big things like how to respond when a reporter wants to turn our dinner into a narrative. We disagree on pace. I like fast, she likes thorough. And we meet in the middle where the kids sleep. The internet sometimes loves us and sometimes hates us for free. Jerome, the twins' father, is trying in his clumsy way to be present, and we make space without making excuses. Family is heavy and holy and loud and ordinary. Wednesday is where vows prove themselves. Last night when I tucked Kira in, she asked, "If Mommy didn't fall down, would we still find you?" I wanted to say yes, like a man who trusts fate more than pattern. I told her the truest thing I own. I don't know, but I'm here now. I'm not leaving. Forever is a long time, she said, yawning like a tiny philosopher. That's why we do it one day at a time, I said, and she drifted off like the words were a blanket. So here's where I hand you the microphone. Was the wrong number a miracle or evidence that our systems are so broken it takes a glitch to save a life? Should people with power use it like a battering ram when policy stands in the doorway? Or should they stand back and only fund the slow fix? Do you think it's fair that adoption, custody, guardianship get debated in rooms where the size of a bank account changes the temperature? If it were you on that phone hearing a small voice say, "My mommy won't wake up," what would you have done? Call 911 and hang up? Send an assistant, say a prayer, and hope someone closer gets there? Or grab your keys and run? Stick around, because of what happens next depends on you. We're launching legal clinics in 3 more neighborhoods. We're publishing a guide for tenants to challenge illegal emergency blocks before they become tragedies. We're training volunteers to show up without turning anyone's life into content. And we're listening to the people who live the stories, not the ones who comment on them from far away. I'll leave you with this. I didn't become a hero, I became a neighbor. Heroes visit, neighbors stay. Some mornings Amara leaves for the center with her badge clipped and her chin high. Some afternoons Caden shows me a shoelace bow that would make an Eagle Scout cry some evenings. Kira asks for a story I don't have yet, and we make one up together. About a girl who dialed the wrong number and found a family at the other end. Yeah, that happened. Now it's your turn. Drop a comment and tell me where you stand. Landlord fined or jailed or both. Rich man moves too fast or not fast enough, miracle or indictment. If this story made you angry or hopeful or suspicious or all three, say that. If you've lived a wrong number that turned into the right person, tell us how it went. Tap subscribe if you believe neighbors save neighbors. Share this with one person who needs proof that answers still exist, and type answered if you'd pick up, listen, and say the only words that matter when a child needs you. I'm on my way.